Welcome back to the YouTube channel, guys. My name is Adam, also known as the Plant Power Coach. I've made sure I've got the pronunciation correct. Michel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I'm excited to have this convo with you, and I'm really glad that you chose someone who's not a trainer and who's not uh, a nutrition expert or a studied plant-based dude.
Absolutely. We've got all kinds of people on here, even non-vegans, believe it or not. And as you can
Okay.
imagine, we if I could kind of summarize what this channel is all about, it's all to do with fitness, plant-based nutrition, and of course the philosophical belief of veganism, right? So I think you're a perfect candidate for what we're kind of discussing today. We're not necessarily looking for trainers or even vegan, but to still have that discussion. So um, can you, just for the people who, I mean, I have my followers, you have more followers than I have, but just for my side of the followers, people that don't know you, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and how we got here today?
Yeah, my name is Michel. I'm 49 years old. I will turn 50 this year, which is kind of a thing if you turn 50. I've been a vegan for the last 7+ years, and I was a vegetarian 10 years before that. Kind of late finding out that it's not a good thing to just be a vegetarian, because we all know the story: cows get killed, chicken get killed, and you can skip cheese, or you can find lots of nice alternatives. And besides being a vegan, I really dig doing fitness. I call myself the kettlebell vegan or kettlebell vegan, and my Insta handle is get up vegan. Like, you can use it both ways: get up and be vegan, or doing the get up and being a vegan, which is a kettlebell move most people probably know. And I really dig doing kettlebell training. I've been doing this for at least the last 5 years. I've been doing CrossFit for 3 years earlier. I did boxing for 6 years. I still do. I love movement. I love to move my body and always challenge myself with new exercises. And I, I'm I really I'm really interested in always improving movement patterns and learning from people, being really creative with their exercises, and also not being like uh, totally going nuts by people telling you how to gain the most volume, what is the best whatever training. Do train for 20 minutes, train for 10 minutes. It's a mess. You have to listen to yourself and to your body and find your personal best routine.
I love that. Now that's amazing. That's everything you've just mentioned is definitely in line with this channel. I want to break down those things a little bit more there. You said you've been vegan, correct me if I'm wrong, you said 7 years, is that right?
7+, seven
Seven,
plus, yeah.
seven
I
plus years.
started in January, so that's why I'm referring to 7+.
Yeah, amazing. And then a vegetarian before that. Could you tell us a little bit about the biggest influences on, I guess, what made you go vegetarian and then, of course, vegan as well? What were the biggest influences for you?
It's not a person. I think it's the heart and soul that made me realize it's so freaking wrong to keep on eating meat. Um, being having grown up in the southern part of Germany, people know that people love meat, and meat is like a commodity. It's nothing special. So I'm really used to having eaten meat quite regularly. Within 7 days, it might have been 4 to 6 times or 3 to 5 times. So it was a regular dish. And I recall a memory in Hamburg that vegan activists have been talking to me on the streets. I think I already was a vegetarian. I had that feeling, those dudes are right, but I'm not ready yet.
Mm.
So I stick to being a vegetarian for 10 years. And at a certain point, I just said, fuck it. I got to change my mindset, and let's go all in. And of course, there's more to veganism than tofu and salad and bananas and apples.
Absolutely. Normally, when we hear the conversation of veganism, there's a lot of people love to bring up my culture this, my culture that, and my traditions this, my traditions that. Just from your own experience, I'm not assuming you've traveled the whole world, but maybe you've done quite a lot of traveling. What is the difference in your mind between the culture in Germany around veganism or anti-veganism, let's say, compared to the rest of the world? Is it much different? Is it the same?
I think it's hard to generalize a whole country and a whole culture.
Hmm.
It's kind of a split within Germany. In the southern part of Germany, I would consider this area rather to be more conservative,
Hmm.
and the northern part being more open-minded. So there's certain political parties you would vote in the southern part of Germany, and different ones you would vote in the northern part. So there's a certain gap between north and south, but in general, I think like in every country, globally speaking, people's mind start to shift towards going vegan is the thing in terms of the animals, the planet, and the health itself. So I think I did not follow the mainstream. I did follow myself, even though it's mainstream and it's fancy to be vegan these days.
Yep.
But being anti-vegan is quite fancy as well,
Hmm.
because you get way more replies, and you will be promoting a lot of vegan fitness reels saying that animal protein is the real thing.
Absolutely. I'm very fortunate to have done some traveling. I also live in London. London,
Mhm.
I find personally to be very welcoming and have lots of options when it comes to veganism and as opposed to different countries, for example, Greece and Portugal, I have found to be, in my
Yeah.
personal experience, not very welcoming when it comes to vegan food options. Um, would you say Germany is one of the countries which have plenty of vegan options and is part like let's say more accepting of veganism?
Generally speaking, I think the bigger a city is, like Hamburg or Berlin or Cologne or even Munich,
Yep.
the more people are likely to be open-minded and open for switching their lifestyle or their diet.
Mhm.
Um, Having been to Amsterdam several times, there's lots of beautiful places, and it's like it's just freaking normal to be a vegan. And so sometimes when I travel to the southern part of Germany, it feels like, okay, they got vegetarian options.
Mm.
Uh, but it also kind of strange going to when I live close to the woods, and so there's a lot of restaurants serving
Mm.
animal-based food, of course, deers and pigs and whatsoever, and they really feel like, yeah, we have a vegan option. It's quinoa and it's veggies, and
Mm.
please give me $20
Yeah.
because we prepared some awesome food for you. You would not imagine that it's vegan, but give us $20 and you will have a small dish and you will feel great.
Yeah.
We've been thinking of you, and be glad that there's one dish for you.
Absolutely. I think I could talk about veganism with you all day. I want to change it slightly, just to
Yeah.
kind of give the example. My career in the fitness industry started off with really focusing on bodybuilding. I was very passionate about physique, and then eventually my training evolved into something I'm now more passionate about, which is powerlifting. Just obviously, as part of the form on how we got here today, you've like you said at the beginning, 50 years young. How has your fitness and plant-based nutrition evolved from your younger years to now?
I'm reading quite a lot of literature considering the best possible nutrition composition. So there's carbs, there's fat, there's protein, and you can get easily mixed up by people saying you have to eat a whole based a whole based, what's the term
Whole food,
for
whole food,
whole
plant-based.
food plant-based
Yep.
nutrition? That's a weird one. To get all your proteins you're looking for. And of course, there's people on the internet promoting as long as you eat legumes and a lot of soy or edamame, everything will be fine. But I think it's also about finding the best timing when to eat what, and to just consider keto as a concept to match with your vegan diet. Because when it comes to carbs, it's easily to overdo the carbs when you go for coffee with oat milk, or if you go for oats as a must-have for your breakfast. So I think if you go for intermediate fasting, I'm flirting a little bit with intermediate fasting, and I'm trying to find like the match which feels natural for me.
Hmm.
So um, I also I like protein shakes, but I skipped going for the protein shakes by the brands that do fancy, glossy packaging. There's also other online companies who just sell the plain 1 kilo bag for a really fair price. So it's not about following all those fitness brands promoting like 500 grams for 25 euros.
Mm.
I can get that amount of um, pea protein, for example, for 10 euros,
Mm.
just having like a minimum amount of ingredients. So
Yep.
it's all about finding like the sugary parts. I'm the dude in the supermarket reading like looking at the ingredients list. It's like nearly it's a given for me to turn the product and
Yep.
see the listings.
Yep. And then from a training point of view, you philosophy like your philosophy on training is how you said before you're doing kettlebells. You've spent years doing CrossFit. What does your training look like right now?
I used to have a kettlebell trainer, which is a dear friend of mine. He's called Stefan, and his account is the Kettlebell Rebel. In Germany, it's Rebel, but in English, it's Rebel. So it's Kettlebell Rebel.
Yep.
And he just I just fell in love with his minimalistic training approach, saying it's not about all those fancy moves you see on Instagram. It's about the basics. It's the
Mm.
kettlebell swing, it's the clean, it's the press, it's the snatch, and that's pretty much it.
Yep.
Or the get up. How could I forget the get up as the get up vegan? So if you go for the big six, and you mix them up in like rather hit driven mode. So it's being I usually go for 8 minutes, 8 minutes, 8 minutes,
Mhm.
and I like to experiment a lot with my training routine. So for me, it's um, diving into these big six, but mixing them up in a way I feel like doing them.
Mhm.
So it could be an 8 minute imam doing get-ups. It could be followed by an 8 minute imam doing cardio, and it could be something like an 8 minute swing with banded swings using a resistance band.
Yep.
And for the last month, I don't know when I actually bought it, I really love training with a weight vest and to just challenge myself even more to make it feel normal wearing my 10 kilogram vest. So instead of like hitting 1 hour, I go for the 30 minutes to 40 minutes, training three to four times a week,
Mhm.
preferably in the till 12 o'clock.
Yep. Absolutely. No, that sounds good. I've got a very, very good understanding of your sort of philosophy on veganism and also plant-based nutrition tied into your fitness and how that sort of evolved over the years. I'm curious, to again slightly change the subject here, what your thoughts are on relationships with yourself being vegan and let's say friends, family, partner, how you integrate with those people in your life if they are or are not vegan. What are your thoughts on relationships as a vegan?
Yeah, there's a lot of great memes on Insta to prepare yourself for family gatherings, or like being the outlaw, having whatever badass type on your shirt, and like um, being the bad guy
Hmm.
on Christmas. Um, I got used to being the bad guy without feeling to talk too much about being that bad guy. Um, People, yeah, it's 2024, so people have a rather good understanding um, of the range of food you can have. This food is yummy. So I'm not being a vegan for the sake of not enjoying whatever dish that is on my plate. So it feels gross to admit that we're seeing people like going for the steak, for the medium raw steak. The longer you are vegan, the more you distance yourself from uh, bloody whatever.
Mm.
So it's just being way more sensitive to the fact that a lot of people just don't care. They just eat whatever they eat.
Mm.
And also like people saying on Instagram they're vegetarian for 9+ years. It's me saying, okay, it's time to take the next step. So if if it would also only be vegans talking to vegans, like the circle of people would be way smaller. But I tend to be the preachy vegan from time to time and telling them, well, there's yummy options you can go for.
Absolutely. I had Jamie from Jamie's Corner on the channel
Oh, yeah,
not long ago. Actually, a video is going
great.
to be coming out soon with her too, and we definitely got into the discussion of relationships with a partner. How do you feel about partners being in a vegan, non-vegan relationship? If Are you okay with it? Are you not okay with it? And if you are, where do you draw the line? So if you're together for 1 year, 10 years, like at some point, it feels like something has to give. What's your thoughts?
Um, I'm in a relationship with a person who is eating meat,
Hmm.
but having turned down eating meat quite a lot.
Hmm.
And and she's rather a vegetarian
Yep.
than a meat eater. So it only rarely, it happens really rarely that she goes for meat options.
Hmm.
It's rather being loving to eat an egg. It's not even like fancy slices of cheese.
Yep.
It's more like the egg
Hmm.
from time to time, and it's milk for whatever protein shake, or it's a chai tea, having tea and honey. So um, as she knows my position and me doing quite a lot of, I call it vegan activism, even though I'm not the guy standing on the street, as I do a lot of reels and I have a lot of conversations in the comments, and I do quite a. I'm pretty straightforward with looking at the profiles of people. Like if there's people blaming me, or like if they have a puppy as a profile pic, I go for do you only love your puppy, or do you love animals for real? So when it comes to my girlfriend, she's used to the fact that I don't eat honey and I don't drink
Hmm.
milk, and we get along really well. It's fine, and she gets it, and as she sees my content and my way of living, um, she's fine with me being a vegan, and I'm
Hmm.
fine with her
Yep.
doing her thing. Um, Loving to see that she
Yeah.
reduces animal-based food.
Absolutely. I love that. And I said definitely some of the people that we've had on the channel as well are actually the partners of the vegans that we've had who are not necessarily vegans. So as I mentioned to them as well, it's hardly a solution to end a relationship with someone because of that, because at the end of the day, like you said, it seems like you're having a positive influence on the other person. So same thing with friends. Like you're not going to change anything by getting rid of your friends who aren't vegan. So I think it's very, thank you. I appreciate you sharing that with us. So one of the things I want to kind of get through as well is like some of the questions that, like you said, on activism, right? What do you feel like your largest form of activism is right now? Is it your account? Is it something more?
I went for being an online activist, being the dude who's going for rather crazy, uh, provocative, viral-driven reels, not
Yep.
following a certain pattern. I'm not the one who's posting or showing slaughterhouse
Yep.
and animal mistreatment.
Hmm.
I'm not the dude who's promoting workouts. I do have stories mainly showing my yoga mat, maybe being barefoot and showing some kettlebell, but there's only rarely footage of me doing a workout, but just for the sake of me showing that I'm doing kettlebell training, so that the whole story is a match being the kettlebell vegan. And um,
Yeah. That,
that's
amazing.
about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes complete sense. I wanted to ask as well, like we live in a world where we live in a world that isn't vegan. Like we have to be realistic that most of the world is not vegan. I like to think that from the statistics that veganism is growing from a percentage point of view. Um, because of the growth in veganism, a lot of media and a lot of people like to point out people going back on like ex-vegans and stuff, people going backwards when it comes to veganism, which I find very interesting considering that it is a moral and ethical stance, and it's very strange to go backwards on a stance against violence. But for that reason, I decided to add this question into these conversation. It's a little bit complex, but don't overthink it too much. How do you keep yourself accountable to not become an ex-vegan?
Yeah, it's a good one. Um, the most common answer I read on Insta is there is no such thing as an ex-vegan. You either are a vegan or you just been plant-based.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
I think to me it's just a daily reminder. Um, I like to challenge myself creatively when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to training, when it comes to philosophy. I'm always questioning myself. I consider myself having a growth mindset, like rethinking. I do a lot of meditation. And in fact, I do meditate daily for like 8 minutes, having a set timer to just go for those 8 minutes. And I think it's a lot of experimenting and finding the best possible flavors and spices and textures. And I'm not the dude who's eating a whole lot of pizza. When I go out, I also love to have a plant-based burger and some fries. I do eat a lot of soy yogurt. Also love pasta and potatoes and rice, and also Satan, for example. Um, but I think when it comes to like the ethical part of it, it's just a no-go. I decided that it's a no-go, and currently I'm listening to the plant-based podcast by Robbie Lockie when it comes to what's with the bees, the bee thing. So I'm always digging into all those subjects, and I'm also reading like some people call it the Bible. I called it the New Testament because it's
Mhm.
the second book by Ed Winters, How to Argue with a Meat Eater.
Yep.
And so I call this the New Testament, and the one I read before, uh, the vegan propaganda book, it's the Old Testament. So I find it kind of funny because like there's also Christspiracy and like God said, let's eat some fancy
Yeah.
steak. God said, it's okay. And
Mm.
as God said it, I'm going to eat meat as long as I can. So um, I always remind myself by the by my mental input. So I do have lots of vegan newsletters, like the generally plant-based news, also the Green Queen, and like the Vegan Society, Pro-Veg. I have loads of podcasts downloaded. Jamie is a really great personality, and I recall having heard the conversation with her being in a relationship with a non-vegan and challenging herself and
Mm.
challenging the dude. And if it doesn't feel relatable, and if the person just pretending to shift the mindset, um, at a certain point she just said, no, that's not my kind of dude.
Yeah.
So I I really read a lot. I'm not the guy who's like, I'm not into statistics too much. I read a lot of numbers, and I also read like We Are the Weather by Jonathan Franzen. Him not having been a vegan while writing this book, and it has lots of stats in it,
Mm.
amazing and devastating facts. But my brain is just not primed on numbers. I get lost with numbers so many times. I'm the visual and creative person who's always trying to find a nice plot with my reels.
Yeah. No, I think what you're doing at the moment is fantastic and it's definitely a great form of activism. I've got one more question for you. I'm just wary of time as well. It's not going to be like a long answer, but it can be very difficult, this question for some people, but for some other people, they find it very easy. So there's no judgment, there's no right or wrong answer with this. I'm just looking to get a different sort of response from each person. Are vegans better than non-vegans?
The moral approach.
I'll
I
leave it at
think,
that.
yeah, I think a lot of vegans consider themselves as being better because they found something. They're not part of a cult. They're not part of religion. And I made several reels. One of them is 8 ways to love a hater, or reasons to love a hater. Um, because you can learn from all parts and all kinds of personalities.
Mm,
I think the funny thing with vegans is them being presented as extreme makes them quite preachy, and them talking about being vegan creates that perception that they feel better.
mm,
But I think more than that, they just want to feel normal and accepted and appreciated, and not like being down talked as um, not allowing people to enjoy the kind of food they want to eat. It just it's just it's just a decision against non-violence. Like
mm,
in yoga, there's ahimsa, and ahimsa is like preventing cruelty in actions, in thoughts, and in emotions.
mm.
And yeah, I know it's a smart question, and it's the question you just went for.
No, that's a
Uh,
good answer. I like that. Anyway, I like everything you mentioned before, especially about what you mentioned about like, your haters, uh, what to take in from your haters essentially. That's a good point. And, some people, some vegans and non-vegans can come off preachy, but I think at the end of the day, we need to understand what the definition of veganism is. And a lot of non-vegans still don't understand that veganism is simply non-violence against animals. So um, that's awesome. I'm just again wary of time, but just last thing, where's the best place for people to find you? Do you have a website? I know you have Instagram. Where's the best place for people to reach out to you if they've connected with you?
I think it's Instagram. It's Get Up Vegan. It's one word. Get Up, like standing up,
Yep.
Get Up Vegan. And also the second source is LinkedIn. So if you click my LinkedIn bio, you will find LinkedIn as well. But I skipped having a website. My website now is those two socials. It's Insta and LinkedIn.
Perfect. No worries. And also, I'm going to put everything in description. So for anyone who's interested, it's going to be down below. So you don't have to search it. You can just click the link and it's all done.
Thank you very much.
That's it, Michel, from us. I'm going to stop the recording there and I'll see you on the other side. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Michel. Thanks.